missiles to obliterate America's MX and Titan ICBMs while they sat in their silos. The surprise attack had blown away most of the country's midsection, along with the nuclear deterrent. Another sneak attack on America. Had it been the only way the enemies of freedom could defeat her? The Piper plane was now right in front of him, slow enough so he could read the sign. Hunter, report to Otis. Jones. Otis had to mean Otis Air Force Base out on Cape Cod. And that meant there was only one Jones it could be. General Seth Jones, hero of the European theater. The man the Allies had followed into battle against the Russian Air Force. The man who had almost single-handedly won the war. He was packed and gone by noon. When he finally reached Otis, the cold morning fog was just lifting off the cranberry bogs, but the warmth of the growing spring would soon be evident. The sun was coming up. The base was starting to come alive. He approached the base cautiously. For all he knew, this could be a Russian base, that of some kind of Russian client's occupying arm. Or was this a base camp of the Army of the New Order? Even before the dust had settled from the Russian sneak attack on the American ICBM sites, the Vice President was issuing orders to all military personnel still in the country to start enforcing the new order. Laws that said there would no longer be 50 states, that America would be broken up into a dozen small countries and a patchwork of free territories. The traitor had said this was the settlement he had reached with the Russian Peace Committee to end the war that everyone conveniently forgot American forces had won. The idea had been to complete the isolation of the American citizen, not to let the ordinary Joe catch on that the Soviet armed forces were lying in cinders scattered all over Europe and Asia, decisively beaten by the free world. It was the big lie. Win the battle, lose the war. Hunter cautiously made his way along the base perimeter. He stayed close to the fence, passing through deep woods until he saw the main gate. He stayed hidden. The gate was manned by a single sentry. One look at the soldier, and he knew things had changed. The man was not standard military. His uniform was a bright green, and he was wearing a chrome helmet, a headpiece usually reserved for parades and ceremonies. Nor was the sentry carrying a standard military firearm. Instead, he was armed with a cowboy-style pistol and holster and a double-barrel sawed-off shotgun. A bizarre flag was flying above the guardhouse. It was a mishmash of green, blue, and white, jumbled up in a field of uneven stars, stripes, and what looked like dollar signs. Below the flag, attached to the roof of the guardhouse, was a sign that read, Flight Operations Center, Armed Forces of the Northeast Economic Zone. He emerged from the woods. The chrome-helmeted cowboy saw him coming and had his gun at the ready. Hunter had forgotten that his appearance wasn't exactly, well, friendly-looking. His hair was beyond shoulder length, and his beard covered nearly half his chest. His clothes were threadbare. He was carrying his meager belongings in an old laundry bag, and he had the M16 and ammunition belt in full view. The sentry raised his gun and cocked it. Hunter smiled and raised his hand in the universal sign of peace. "Major Hawk Hunter, to see General Jones." 5 minutes later, the sentry led him into a small office. Sitting behind a dilapidated desk was a man he thought he'd never see again, General Seth Jones. Hunter couldn't believe it. Jones actually looked younger. He was trimmer, leaner, and meaner looking. His hair had grown out of its trademark military whiffle, and the resulting locks, with a tinge of gray, gave him a kind of professorial look. "What's this, Corporal?" Jones said, putting on his sternest military face. "Another veteran looking for a handout?" Despite Hunter's long hair and beard, Jones could still see his handsome, oddly hawk-like features. Sloppy appearance or not, he knew the young man was still the best fighter pilot in the world. Hunter snapped to a mock attention. "Major Hunter, reporting for duty, sir." "You're out of uniform, Major." "So are you, sir," Hunter replied, eyeing the senior officer's bright green, rather garish uniform. If the sentry wasn't still present, Hunter thought he would have probably embraced his old friend. The general fingered his loud green coverall and said, "Do I detect insolence in your voice, Major? I'll have you know this is the standard uniform of the armed forces of the Northeast Economic Zone A Patrol. I wear it proudly. Where have you been, Major? Hibernating?" "Worse than that, sir," Hunter replied, still standing ramrod straight at attention. "I've been contemplating my existence." "Obviously, you're suffering from post-World War III syndrome. It's been going around. Good to see you, Hawk." "Same here, sir." Jones dismissed the sentry, locked the office door, and broke out his emergency bottle of scotch. "Had breakfast yet?" he asked as he poured Hunter a drink. "Have you noticed that we have a few planes here, Hawk?" the general said, his smile looking like the cat that ate the canary. "So I can hear. But how'd you get around the demilitarization order?" "Ha! We were lucky, Hawk. And the traitors, our so-called vice president and the rest of them, were stupid. Their new order said dismantle all the combat aircraft, when it should have said destroy all combat aircraft. So what do you think the smart people in Europe did? They just started taking the planes apart, cataloging the numbers, and packing them away. And who the hell was going to stop them? The UN? The Finns? The Russians? No way. So these enterprising sorts packed all the pieces away, put it on ships, and sent the ships everywhere and anywhere, just before the commies moved in. Every war has its profiteers. You get the idea. The New Order boys also screwed up by not including other military aircraft like cargo planes and tankers, copters, and they didn't mention anything about decommissioned aircraft either. Hunter's vision of a flightless world was happily coming to an end. A couple of guys out in Ohio realized they were sitting on a bonanza and opened up shop. All these little countries or regions or states or whatever they are came running because everyone wanted to start their own Air Force. It's an airplane supermarket. We've got a couple of guys out there right now bidding on some planes. Weird little man calls himself Roy from Troy as the wheeler dealer. "What are you shopping for?" "Mostly small stuff, fighters, attack craft. They've got everything. A lot of heavy bomber merchandise, B-58s, B-47s, even a couple B-36s. But we can't fool around with the heavies. We can't afford them, and the runway here won't take a lot of it. Way too short. And where would we put them?" "And what would you do with them?" "Exactly. The people running all these little air forces think the bigger the better. Now, I'm sure a lot of them are thinking of converting their B-47s into cargo planes, and in some cases it will work. But you can be sure that some of these clowns are thinking differently. Some of these states are being run by the typical crooked and/or stupid politician who suddenly woke up and found he was a king. Hell, this so-called vice president appointed half of them. God knows what deals he made before he traded in his stars and bars for a hammer and sickle. Well, what happens when someone in the country next door doesn't want to pay a flyover tax, or money at the tolls, or starts fishing in the other guy's river? How much will it take before one of these piss-pots in control gets mad enough and orders his B-36s to go and flatten the other guy's capital? It's already happening. They've been having a hell of a misunderstanding down near Florida and Alabama, blowing the shit out of each other, using gasoline bombs, napalm, terrible stuff." "Napalm? You can get napalm these days?" "Oh, yeah. Anyone who wants it can get palm from the Mid-Ax." "Mid who?" "Mid-Ax, the Middle Atlantic Conference states. Everything from Delaware and Pennsylvania down to Georgia. New Jersey doesn't count. The Axe. They're real dangerous, Hawk. They were sitting on a lot of military hardware when the balloon went up, and they must have either hid 90% of the shit when the new order came in, or made a deal to keep it all, because they still have a lot of it. I mean, these guys are armed to the teeth, and then some, with tanks, PCs, howitzers, and they have a lot of men in uniform, too. A lot of scumbags living down there even before the war. Now at least they're employed." He took a healthy swig from his coffee mug. "We'll be fighting them here next. They're already making noise. They took over several little territories around Kentucky and Tennessee, just rolled over them. Sherman to the sea type stuff. They have Fort Knox and made themselves rich. Now they want to talk to my bosses about mutual defense treaties and all this happy horse shit. It's a joke. They have a bunch of crooks running the show, and they can use a whole army as enforcers. I'd like to kick their